Welcome to Anita Talks History and Genealogy. And so pleased that you all could be here for this last final day of 2025. Whew, we made it. And today is the last day of Kwanzaa, Imani, which means faith. And I just thought about, it took so much faith for us to get here today, for us to make it to the end of this year against the odds that were put up, against our very existence. And I'm talking to my people. You know who you are. We know who we are. I'm speaking to y'all. This is Anita Talks History and Genealogy. And I stay true to talking history and genealogy and connecting the past to the present. So yes, this year was kind of like a nail biter. It was an awakening for some folks who thought they were tethered up against other folks, and come to find out they were not. Some folks who have been disrespecting our community and then expecting us to get on board when they were targeted. They F-A-F-O. I'm sorry. We're not doing it. Businesses that want to disrespect us, don't want to hire us, don't want to help us, with our small businesses by selling, selling our goods and wares in their stores. This is what I'm saying. This entire year has been nothing but a messed up MAGA fest. And me and my folks, we just been chilling, sitting back and watching the circus as they, devour each other. And those of us who don't want to do that, who want to be a part of the MAGA, hey, have at it. Have at it. We've seen people's lives taken. We've seen people code switching, trying to get back in the barbecue. I ain't even gonna mention no names. Y'all know who I'm talking about. I don't need to mention their names because I'll be done left somebody out, because there's a bunch of them. Sellouts. Handkerchief heads. Y'all know who you are. Yeah, so this day is Imani, and there used to be a song, when I went to Sunday school, it's called, I forgot the name of it, but they would say, we've come this far by faith, leaning on the Lord, trusting in his holy name. He hasn't failed us yet. And we are a people of faith. We are a spiritual people. And some say we are God's people. And I tend to believe it when we look back at how we, as a people, have suffered. And when I'm saying that, I'm not just saying that about people brought here as slaves. I'm talking about the people also who were here, the indigenous people. My own ancestors were enslaved, and they were native, indigenous to these lands. They too were enslaved. And so we, as those of us who consider ourselves indigenous, brown people who are proud of who we are, who are proud of our ancestors and what our ancestors have come through, who are also aligned with those slaves that were brought here. Because I'm going to tell you something that no one wants to talk about much, is that when the slaves, when they started bringing African people here, the indigenous native people were helping them to escape. So much so that the Europeans, the colonizers, said they had to do a divide and conquer. So they, one of the ways they did that was to assimilate the natives. Like, about the Catholic mission schools. Well, my ancestors were forced to be Episcopalian in Lancaster County, Virginia. The Wicomico. It's even a Wicomico parish, but the name of the tribe was Wicomico. And they brought their church. The Episcopalian, and the Anglos split the county up. So it's Lancaster County, Virginia, and now it's Wicomico County, Virginia. And my ancestors, who were the Penns in that area, were required to attend the Episcopalian church from the early 1700s. They were forced into becoming Christians. And if you did not attend church and pay tithes, then the church warden would go out and have you arrested. Yeah. Those people that were burning witches at stakes and stuff, well, that's what our ancestors were exposed to, that they don't talk about. They're not going to talk about that, So how did they survive? They survived by going into the interior. They survived by, going further south or going, further north. They went as far as Canada to be free. And they also were taking the slaves with them. Because when they first brought the slaves, right here will tell you what the hue or the color of the natives were. The slaves were escaping onto the native villages. And the natives were allowed them to come there. They were intermixing and intermarrying on the villages of the natives. So that ought to tell you that there wasn't no white-looking natives. If they were able to have the slaves who come intermix so that the Europeans didn't even know who was native and who was slave, then that tells you that the natives themselves were probably brown people. And so this is why they started going after the natives, either to assimilate them or to force them off their land and into reservations, or to just run them out of the county and out of the state. That's what was going on back then, folks. And so I think about that. These are some of the things that come to mind when I'm watching this current administration, which is nothing but a continuation of previous administrations, and how they are doing all kind of dirty things to stick it to indigenous people and to the descendants of slaves, how they just are flouting the fact that they are not going to give us any rights. They are not going to pay reparations. They are not admitting they did anything wrong. Their ancestors did anything wrong in enslaving us. They're not doing it. We don't need them to do it. What they need to do is to get right with their God, because we're all going to face God. Or should I say get right with our God, since they practice in a religion that's based in on African spiritual teachings, except they took Yahweh and made him a white man. That's what they did. So did the Jews, the Zionists that are in Israel now. The Christ that they don't believe in is they have went to the Christians, and the Christians are worship a European Jesus, and they are accepting the Zionists because the Zionists are Europeans. So why wouldn't they accept them and their fake practice of Judaism? They're all running a scam and thinking that they're fooling Creator, they're fooling God, they're fooling Yeshua. They're not. They're not. And that's why we, we're focusing on our own selves. We're focusing on what we can do for ourselves in our community, and this is part of the Kwanzaa, is that we have faith and we do for each other first. We focus on each other first. We uplift each other first. And because they are so used to, they claim not to be guilty of anything their ancestors did, but they sure do like to carry them traditions of having us work for nothing for them, trying to encourage some of our young people to go out there and work in them fields after they have got rid of the migrants that were working those fields. Now they're talking about why can't some of them African Americans or some children from the inner cities go and work in their fields. Are you crazy? You must be crazy. Why don't you get some of yours to go and work in the fields? Try that, see how it works. And and plus work in the field for what, $11? But he's giving what? How many billions is he giving to the white farmers? Yet they are getting all those billions and saying, let the inner city kids come out here. We'll pay them $11 an hour to work 6 days a week, sun up to sundown. That sounds like slavery to me. You get $11 an hour. They tax it. There's state taxes and federal taxes, and God knows what else. You'd be lucky if you get $5 a day. I don't have to explain that to my people because my people know what's going on. My people know, and so as we reflect back, and it's called the Sankofa bird reflects back to see what they can learn from the past, and that's what we as a people are doing. That's what Kwanzaa is about. We're learning from the past, and we're making we're making our plans to do even better next year, because we know that we only have each other. We have always only had each other. We have not had any help, especially financial help. We have to make something out of nothing, and this is who we are. And this is why I'm focusing on faith. We've come this far by faith, and we're going to continue to move forward by faith. And what is my faith in? My faith is in my family, my God, my family, my community first. And also it's in my faith is in the fact that the ancestors survived through us. There's my faith. I never forget the suffering that my ancestors went through, and how they, they just finished their little holidays, their Christ Mass and their Thanksgiving and, Halloween. They make up holidays, Easter and whatever. But our ancestors' holidays, they celebrated whenever they left the fields. They celebrated. They would sit around and have a little conversation before they went into, to rest and get up and go back in the fields. They found celebration. And that's what we do. We don't wait until their holidays to celebrate. Every day for us is a celebration. It's, every time the sun comes up, we celebrate that. When the sun sets, we celebrate that. And in the meantime, let's heal our community. Let's bring more people into the fold. Let's feed the hungry. Let's make sure there's housing. Let's make sure that those who are incarcerated come home. the wrongful and unjust convictions of our loved ones, the enslavement of our loved ones. What did Michelle Alexander say? She wrote a book about it, The New Jim Crow. It's still going on, folks, you know. And even if you can't, you know, be out there, I mean, well, you know, there are no streets to go out to anymore thanks to Trump. But, you know, you can write a letter, there's ways to support. You can pray for our prisoners who are behind bars, who are wrongfully convicted, who are serving long sentences, while the likes of DJT, a 34 times convicted felon, is the president of these United States. That in itself says more about this last year than any words could ever say. I mean to tell you. That's what my grandmother would say. Child, please. It's like a bad sci-fi movie or something, you know. But we have to make sure that we separate our stuff from their stuff. So let's do that. This is Imani. Today is faith, and we're about to come into 2026, and we're going to do 100 times better in 2026, and we'll, you know, watch the circus as it continues to move through. It's passing through. It's passing through. It's on its way to, you know, wherever those types of people go, and the sheep are right behind them. So let them go. Move out their way. Let them go, and let them think that having money is going to save them. Have you ever seen so many people with so much money and power so miserable? So miserable. They're so miserable that they have to keep their foot on the neck of the poor people, or those they consider poor. And they're doing worse things to their own people than they could ever do to us, because nothing they do surprises us. So, you know, it ain't like you're making a difference. You know, you're just making us build a tighter community, reach out to our neighbors, and make sure that we check on our neighbors. What you're doing is tightening our circle. That's what you're doing. And so let's see, you know, make sure that you all, before you leave here, make sure that you hit that like and subscribe button, that you share. And we want to do we're going to do it right. We're going to have a happy new year. And I also want to acknowledge those who have not, who have left us during this year, family members and loved ones and friends and community members that will not be with us in 2026. Let's remember and acknowledge them too, their lives, and that, they're still with us in the spirit realm, and we want to honor them, honor their lives and their passing, because we're all going to go that way sooner or later. And I am like grateful to have my children. I have grandchildren. I have a great granddaughter. Grateful for my health. It was a struggle this year. I thought, I spent some time in the hospital, in the ICU, and I was like, oh my God, is this it? And the doctors and the nurses, they saved my life. And I owe praise to them. Thank you. Yeah, and actually helped me when I came home. I had a nurse come in, help me with my diet, bring me all kinds of stuff to test, test my blood, test my glucose, um, test, make sure that I have my medication, and that is what I call, a godsend. Don't forget that God sends us um, people to help us through when we're in a hard situation. And I'm here for but for the grace of God. We all have a reason why we're here, and I talk a lot about my family, about history, but I do it out of love for my community because I think we should know. These people stole everything from us, and when we work to find out, uncover what was taken from us, they don't even want us to have that, to have what we're working for. We are keeping our own history alive because Trump is shutting down the libraries. Their education is not is saying that they can't teach about slavery in school. They're taking away our monuments, but we are still here and we're still talking about our history. We're talking because we're talking to our young people. They want to know. They want to know. And during slavery, whenever the slaves got a chance and was around the children, they were teaching the children. They taught the children to dance, to cook. They taught the children how to farm. Those are skills. Those are valuable skills. And when they had their churches, they opened Sabbath schools. My great-great-grandfather, Robert Penn, had a Sabbath school, and when after the during the Civil War, when the slaves would get to the north, to Burlington, New Jersey, where he was enrolling them in his school. Sabbath school meant that on a Saturday, they were teaching the children, and this was prior to slavery and during slavery. Yes, his name was Reverend Robert A. Penn, and there's a Penn Memorial Baptist Church in Philadelphia named in his honor, and there's a memorial Memorial Baptist Church that he founded in Philadelphia. No, it's Monumental Baptist Church, excuse me. But they lived in Burlington. They were in Burlington during the Civil War. And when they started the slaves started coming into the North, the ex-slaves, he was teaching them. They had Sabbath schools. And this was a Baptist church. And so these are my ancestors who were so powerful in the community, who were making a difference, and who made something out of nothing, because it's called what? Imagination. You can do that. We have that ability because we're creative and we're connected to Creator. You make something out of nothing. We have always done that. And there are certain people that hate us for it. That's why they burnt down the cities that we built, like Tulsa and Rosewood, the communities where we were not bothering them. Like right now, they have all white communities. When we had all black communities, they came like little jealous bullies and burned them down and looted them. And that's what they do. And we still got up from the ashes, and we again rebuild. We will continue to rebuild. And every time they take one of our lives, guess what? 100 black babies are born. 100 indigenous babies are born. You may not see them. You may not know but it is true. Creator knows who is supposed to be on Mother Earth. And Creator knows who is the plague on Mother Earth. And so, when they were talking about, I'm going to end with this, when they were talking about natural selection, they were trying to imply that these Europeans, were the chosen ones, and nature selected them as superior beings. If nature did that, why are they only 9% of the population? And even that population is dying off and not replacing itself. And yet, some of them are pissed off at us as Black and brown and indigenous people. Like, we did that. You did it to yourselves. You do it to yourselves. And then you lie about it and try to make yourself a majority on somebody else's land that you stole. Maybe if you go back to where you come from, maybe you'll have more babies. If you're in the land where your ancestors are originally from. Right now, you're on indigenous people's lands. And that includes the Mexicans. Y'all keep on talking about the Mexicans having all these babies. They're on their own land. It's fertile land for them. It's fertile land for me and my people. It's just not fertile for you because this is not your land. Africa is not your land. Australia is not your land. Go back to your land. And then you can have a bunch of babies. If Creator deems it. But don't get mad at us. We didn't, we're not the ones in control of that. That's you and your God. So, happy Kwanzaa, everyone. In faith and in truth. We worship in faith and in truth. And don't forget to hit that like and subscribe button. And also, check out my merchandise. Share the channel. And I will be back shortly, and we'll talk some more. Habari Gani.